Hi there. Gerrit Rietveld was a Dutch architect and designer. He lived between 1888 and 1964. At the age of 11, he started working in his dad's workshop as an apprentice in woodworking. Later, he studied architecture, and in 1923 he joined the group called the Stijl, which is Dutch for the Style. The Stijl was a group of Dutch painters, architects, and designers. One of the main members was the painter Peter Mondrian. I'll leave a link on the description from the Wikipedia so you can know more about this group. In 1917, Rietveld opened his own furniture business, and a little bit later he designed the red and blue chair. In 1932, he designed the zigzag chair. In 1934, he designed the Krat Chair. It was designed based on using parts of industrial crates, recycling those materials that were abundant in his area. Krat in Dutch means crate. In this video, I'm going to show you how to build your own Rietveld's Krat Chair. This particular chair I have at home in my backyard. I made it out of purple heart and it stays in the sun the whole day. So I had to resand it and reapply varnish so I can have it for many more years. One thing about purple heart, when it stays in the sun all day, it starts to turn brown and it loses its color, its purple color. For some reason, purple heart is very affected from the light. So it's kind of funny when you go through the planer, or you sand it a lot, it goes brown, and once you leave it for a while, it comes back to purple. But if it stays in the sun, it goes back to brown. That's why in the back part here, it doesn't have its color anymore, and it's something that happens to purple heart. Purple heart is a very hard and very dense wood, very strong, and it takes a lot of punishment, but the color loses itself when it's in the sun. If you're gonna keep it indoors, it's gonna be okay. One of the main features of this chair, it's very comfortable. Even though it's very low, you sit very low to the ground, the angles on the seat and on the back are perfect. It's very comfortable. The only hard part is getting in and out of the chair. But otherwise, you can stay a long time in it. Even though it doesn't have any cushions on it, it works very well. To make your own Krat chair, you're gonna have a list of materials on the description. For our friends in imperial measurements, I'm gonna have both in millimeters and in inches, so you can follow the list. You're gonna need 10 pieces of wood, about 140, 150 millimeters wide, 20 thick, and 450 long. These are gonna make the 3 parts on the seat, the 3 parts on the back, and the 4 legs. You're gonna need 2 600 millimeter long, again 140, 150 millimeters wide, everything 20 millimeters thick, to make the 2 crossbars on the side. You're gonna need 2 600 millimeter long by 60 wide to make the arms. To brace the seats, you're gonna need two 490 millimeters long by 60 to make the bottom part that brace the whole seat. And for the back, the same thing, but 450 millimeters long, so you can make the back part. It's a very simple build. Rietveld designed it to be simple using recycled materials, so it's very easy to make. When you put it all together, it's a little bit complicated because the pieces are very large and don't stand up right on its own, but in the end it's going to be a very simple thing. So I already have all the parts that I need cut to size and planed it, and here are the 10 pieces of 450 by 140 millimeters to make the back, the seat and the legs. The two crossbars, 600 by 140. The two arms, 60 by 600. The beams for the seat, 490 by 60. And the beams for the back, 450 by 60. I'm gonna use eucalyptus. It's a type of tree that is not natural in Brazil. It was brought in the 20th century to Brazil, so it could be used in paper making. Before that, they used pine, but eucalyptus grows very fast here in Brazil. So for paper production, the eucalyptus tree is big enough to make paper in about 7 years. And once you cut it, it regrows without you making anything. It does that 2 or 3 times. So you just cut the tree, use it, it regrows. 7 years later, you cut it again, it regrows, and then you cut it again. So it grows very fast here in Brazil. It's very cheap. Around my area, there are a lot of farms that have plantations of, they are monocrop, it's a problem, but they grow very fast and they're very cheap to buy. And one of the species of eucalyptus has this very nice pink color to it, so it looks pretty good in the end. It's a very good wood to work with, even though it grows very fast. It's not as soft as pine, but it works pretty good. So I'm gonna use this to make the Krat chair. The first thing is to mark everything, so it will be easier to assemble later. So the first thing is to build the two sides. To build one side, you're gonna need one of the 600 long and two of the 450. One goes on one side and the other goes on the other side. And the arm is gonna go here so it can be attached. You're gonna use screws for everything because it was supposed to be something very simple, and screws make it easier to assemble and faster. The original design was with the screws all showing. You can do that, or like I'm gonna use here, you can put plugs to conceal the screws. I think it looks a lot better, so that's what I'm gonna do. So first thing is to mark all the attachment holes and the seat and the back holes that are gonna put everything together. So the first thing is, in the back, the part that's gonna hold the back is to the inside from the crossbar. So here I'm gonna mark the back part, and I'm gonna screw everything from the inside so it doesn't show as much on the outside. It doesn't matter which side you come from, as long as it's very well attached and away from the screws that are gonna hold both the back and the seat. So here is the piece that is gonna hold the back, the back part, and it goes in the inside. We're gonna center the crossbar on the length of this of the leg. So to make sure everything is aligned and squared, I'm gonna measure the center from the bottom in all of the legs. I'm gonna put 4 screws here, so everything, even though the wood is gonna work in time, it has 4 points of pressure from one piece to the other. The back part is gonna come at an angle right here. So to make sure I don't put one screw from this attachment too close to the screw that's gonna hold the back, I'm gonna mark it first, and then I'm gonna mark the other screws around. To set up the back, you're gonna measure the exact center of this board. So this is 450 by 140, so you need to mark the point that is 225 by 70. So here's the point. Even though the seat and the back are at angles, you don't have to use a protractor or something like that to measure angles. It's just a matter of alignment. So I'm gonna take this tip and put it right on the point that I marked, and the back of the board, it's gonna be here. So I have to align it. I'm gonna mark it. So here is the line, and I'm gonna mark 2 screws, 2 holes for the screws that are gonna hold the back part. Since this is 20 millimeters thick, I just have to mark 10 millimeters from this line that I just drew, and then put the 2 screws in it. From the edge here, I'm gonna mark 80 and then 180, so I can have it not too close to the edges of the board. So 180 from here, perpendicular to the line that I just drew, and then 80, and these are the 2 points where the screws are gonna go in, and 10 millimeters from the line, so it can go dead center to the thickness of the board. Then you just punch it. So you can drill it later. Next, you're gonna have to measure the center where this one will go. 450 minus 140, you got 310. You divide it by 2, you got 155 from the bottom. Just mark it for now, so you know where you have to make your holes for the attachment of the crossbar. So I'm gonna distribute 4 screws here. So I'm gonna go 30 millimeters from this line, 30 from the top, and 30 from each side. It makes it easier. I like to use calipers so I have the same measurements in an easier way. And now I just reproduce the lines using the square. Punch them so it's easier later. And the back leg is done. One thing you have to be careful is everything is mirrored from one side to the other. So it's probably a good idea to make them together. So you make sure that when they're in position, they are exact mirrors of each other. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the other back leg so I can make sure that I don't mess up. So it's just to repeat the process, and instead of the back going in this angle, it's gonna go in that angle. So mark everything and you're good to go. So as you can see, they're exact mirrors of each other because they're going to go like this, and now the angle for the back is correct. Next part is just mark the 4 screws on the cross beam for the front leg and the angle for the seat, and then two holes for its attachment. The idea is the same. It's good to make them both together so you don't run the risk of doing it the same way on both of them. So they're gonna go into this time I'm gonna make the 4 holes in the crossbar from the inside out, and the idea is the same, 30 by 30, 4 holes, and the angle for the seat. Once again, you don't need to know the angle, you're just gonna have to do it by position, and everything's gonna fall into place. So the two in the back, it's 110. 140 minus 30. Punch everything. So to set up the right angle for the seat, I'm gonna mark about 20 millimeters from the front, and I'm gonna set it up where this line that I just marked is right on the tip, right here, very much aligned, and the back tip is right flush in the back here on the bottom, right there. Okay, so the same way we did with the back, just align it, mark it, and the angle is going to be exactly what you want. The same thing on the other side. So align to the tip and right flush here. And then we're going to mark the top of the board so we can make the markings for the holes for the screws later. So it's the same thing. I'm going to measure 80 millimeters for the front screw, and 330 for the back. $80 for the front, and $330 for the back, and then 10 and then punch the two markings. And the two sides are done. Now we're gonna mark the two arms. Again, they're a mirror, so it's a good thing. Sometimes I mess up to put them to kind of assemble the parts so you can make sure you're doing the right thing. So in the front, they're gonna go on top of the leg right here, and in the back they're gonna go on top of the back leg, but they're not aligned. The back leg is to the inside, the front leg is to the outside. So you gotta have two holes on the outside in the front and two holes in the back to the inside, so they can go like this. You see there's a shadow here because the leg is to the inside. So it's a good practice to do them together, otherwise you're gonna make them the same and the holes are gonna be backwards. So let's stick to the 30 millimeter measurement. On the outside, in the front, on the outside, in the front, on the inside, in the back, and then 110 for the other one, on the inside, in the back, on the outside, in the front. If you're doing this for the first time, do this way, because I messed it up a couple of times doing my own chairs. I had to flip it out and there was a mess. And then 10 millimeters because of the thickness of the material. Punch it, and then you're done. Next, we're gonna do the back braces and the seat braces. So that's pretty simple. Taking to the 30 millimeter measurement, it's easier. So for the outside pieces, to the outside boards, it's going to be 30, 110, 30, 110, right in the middle on both of them. It doesn't matter if it's the seat or the back. And then we're going to measure the center of the board to do the center part, the center board. So let's do this, all of them together, so we can speed things up. So that's 30, that's 30, 30. And then 110. So for the back, 450 minus 140, you're gonna have the holes at 185 from each side. So you just need to measure from each side. You're going to measure 205 from each side, then you have the exact positions for the holes. And then just mark the center. And then punch everything. Now that everything is marked, I'm gonna make the countersink holes for the plugs on every one of the pieces, and then sand it, because I'm gonna apply varnish on it with it assembled. Since this is going to go indoors, just the varnish is just to protect against the sun, because the place is gonna go, it has a lot of sunlight. So I'm gonna apply it assembled. If you're gonna put this outside, I suggest you apply the varnish to the parts that are gonna go together, like the sides, before you assemble, so those parts are protected, because along the time with the rain and everything, if there are some crevices on it, the water is gonna go in there and rot away the wood. So if it's gonna be outdoors, apply the varnish first, and then you're gonna have to apply on the parts that are gonna have the screws and the plugs later. But if it goes indoors, you can apply that just with the chair assembly. So this is the idea. So I'm gonna countersink the holes real quick. I'm gonna set up my drill press so they all have the same depth. I'm gonna use a 3/8 flat drill bit because the plugs are 3/8. And for the big screws that are gonna hold the seat and the back, I'm gonna use 1/2 inch plugs because the screws are gonna be a lot bigger. So just set up real quick by hand the first one, and then the other ones are gonna be repeated. You just have to go deep enough for the plug to attach it to the wood. About 8 millimeters should be enough, about half of the thickness of the wood. And let's go. So first I'm gonna set it up for the stop on the drill press. So I'm gonna play this one by ear. So I think this is deep enough, and I'm gonna set up the stop and do the rest. Just do everything that goes with the 3/8. So for the parts that are going to hold the screws that go into the back end, the seat, I'm going to make a pilot hole 5 millimeters because the screws are 6 millimeters in diameter. And the countersink I'm going to do later with the 1/2 inch because some of the holes are going to have to drive to the other part after assembly. So I'll do that. I'm gonna do that later. So just real quick, make the pilot hole. So I'm gonna sand all the parts now with 150 grit sandpaper. Take all the markings and pencil marks from the pieces and start assembling. With some video editing magic, everything is sanded. So next step, assemble everything. We're gonna start with the two sides, do it completely, including placing the plugs in place, then finishing with the seat and the back. So now I'm gonna assemble the whole side of the chair. So I'm gonna first attach the back leg to the crossbar. So I'm gonna measure the 155 that we talked about earlier from the bottom and make sure everything is square. I attach everything to the workbench so it doesn't move. So I need to just set it, put a clamp on it. So now I just make the pilot holes and attach and drive the screws. I'm gonna use screws that are 4.5 millimeters in diameter, 30 millimeters long, so they don't go out on the other side. Be careful when you drive the screws at the last part, because if you push it too hard, they break, even though you made pilot holes. If you don't make the pilot holes, they're gonna break right in the beginning. So now I can go ahead and put the plugs in and cut them off. And these plugs that are made, they have a little chamfer on it, so they go in and they go in like a joint. So you don't have to put glue on them. Just make sure you hammer them firmly, and then you can cut them straight away. See? Then you use a flush saw. Be careful, these things are very sharp. I cut myself all the time with them. And this is done. I just have to sand it a little to make it all the way flush. And this is done. Now to put the front leg, it goes on the other side. So I'm gonna use so this goes in the front, and I'm gonna use one of the other pieces from that are gonna make the back and the seat, so everything is level. So now this side is the bottom part. I'm gonna lock my square, make sure everything is set, lock it with a clamp to the workbench, and just position this, lock it, and repeat the same process. This has to be precise, otherwise the chair is going to be wobbly. So now you just have to place this flush to the front against the square and lock it with a clamp and drill away. Next step, to put the armrest in. So I have this square that I use for large cabinets, sometimes I have to do, and this holds in place because doesn't stand up for itself without being completely assembled. So you just have to make it flush in the front and on the sides. Clamp it so it doesn't move. It's good to clamp it in the back as well. And for this I'm gonna use some longer screws. So for the armrest I'm gonna use some longer screws. It's the same diameter, 4.5, but by 40, because since the chair is very low, when you get up or sit down, you put all the weight on the armrest, and it tends to go this way. So the longer screws are preventing anything to come out of place. So the same, just pilot hose and drive the screws. So the vibration dropped the clamp, but it didn't come out of place. So the armrest is done. Just put the plugs in and cut them and sand it. Don't forget to round over the edges, because if you don't, they're gonna be very uncomfortable. So round over everything so they don't hurt later. So now I'm gonna attach one board from the back and one board from the seat to this side, and do the same thing to the other side, and then connect the two together with the crossbars from the seat and the back. So the idea is to do the same as we did for the markings. So align the board here and screw from the outside. So for this, I'm gonna use some larger screws because all the weight is gonna be held by these screws. So I'm gonna use 6mm in diameter by 65. They hold the weight pretty good. If it gets too hard to make the hole, go in and then come out and try to take all the sawdust that sticks to the drill, so the material can come out. Now this is done. The same thing for the seat up front. To make things easier, I'm gonna have just a piece of scrap and set it here, so the back part rests on it and it's aligned, and it's easier to clamp it in place. Just be careful not to put the clamp in front of the hole and make it harder for you. Get one of the boards to make the seat. Remember, we marked 20 millimeters from the front so we could have the right angle. It's gonna come out a little bit in the front. So mark it the 20 on top of it so you can place it, and then you can erase it. So you're gonna align the marking to this front edge and clamp it down. Now you can put the plugs in, cut them, and sand them. So both sides are done, and now we have to put them together. So I'm gonna do this from the back and make the back part first, and then we can flip it and do the seat. So for the seat, we're gonna take the shorter pieces that are 450 millimeters and attach it like so to the backboard. So you just have to clamp them in place on one side, clamp it in place on one side first and attach it, and then you fix the second part according to the first side. Make sure it's square. Yeah, so just attach it with screws like the rest of the chair. So it's the same process on the bottom part and on the seat, on the two process on the seat. So to place the center board, get that piece of scrap that we used earlier, place it here. It should be flush on the top. center and attach it. So you're gonna need 30 millimeters on each side, so you can set your caliper and place it, clamp it down, check the bottom part, don't forget to lock the calipers. Now you can take the scrap out. Check it. Everything is okay. Drill, drive the screws. So the back is done. The only thing left is to put the plugs in, cut them, and sand them. So the last part is doing the same to the seat, and we're done. So the chair is done. Next thing is to treat it. If you're gonna keep it indoors, some mineral oil, some natural wax like beeswax do the trick. Since this is going in an apartment, it's gonna go on the balcony, so it's gonna take sun, not at all a lot of rain, but a lot of sun. Then I'm gonna apply varnish. Next video I'm gonna show you how I do it. There are many ways to do it, but the way that I find it that works for me, and I'm gonna show it on the next video. If you enjoyed this, give that thumbs up, subscribe, and until next time.